Is it possible to win a Heisman with the kicker in NCAA 25? I'm going to find out in this video because I've taken a kicker and moved him to quarterback. I've pulled out all the stops. This is the final attempt. We're going to find out if this is possible at all. And I'm going to be using Kansas State, not because I like Kansas State or anything like that, because they have Leighton Simmering, the fastest kicker in the game with an 86 speed. He's an actual track star in high school. I'm adjusting the sliders to make the quarterback more accurate and, of course, turning all the kicking sliders up. So let's get into the challenge goals. Of course, win a Heisman. We're also going to make sure we still win the Lou Groza. And lastly, I want to go undefeated. For the first attempt of this video, I tried to win the Heisman from the kicker position still. My plan was to use fake field goal passes to throw a ton of touchdowns and win the Heisman that way. And it looked like it was going to work. I threw a bunch of touchdowns. I think he ended up with 6 of them in this video. And I genuinely thought it was going to be possible. I mean, this guy was going to lead the country in touchdown passes. I had to make sure that tight ends weren't the ones that were actually going to win the Heisman. But for a while here, I thought this was going to work. It looked super promising. I also wanted to make sure I actually did kick some kicks because, like I said, I want to win the Lou Groza. But after completing just one game, I realized it wasn't going to work. I did not win player of the game, which wasn't that surprising. The tight end had 6 TDs. And the game did record the kicker's passing and rushing stats. I was a little bit worried about that. But when I went to the season stats after the game, they weren't there. And when I dove into his player card, the passing and rushing stats were not there either. This attempt was an absolute failure. So that meant it was time to pull out all the stops. You cannot win a Heisman with the kicker as the kicker, so I moved him to quarterback. And this dude has absolute wheels. I chose the fastest kicker in the game for a reason. I planned to scramble a lot because passing was going to be difficult. I turned the sliders up for pass accuracy, but there is no slider for arm strength. So I still have a noodle arm quarterback, which was difficult. But eventually I started to get used to it. It was all about timing, getting the ball out quickly, or just making sure you're throwing to wide open dudes because the arm strength is just not there. It makes it hard. But once you get used to it, you realize you're still playing on freshmen. It's not that hard. This challenge is definitely going to make me get better as a passer in this game, which is not one of my strengths. But it was pretty fun. And you can see we are absolutely dominating, even with the kicker as the quarterback. On freshmen, we're going to win most of these games, but we have an extremely close game later in this video. These were not all just cakewalks. I'm not going to show as much footage from each game after this, but I wanted to let you all see what we were working with the kicker at quarterback. He's fast, not that quick, not powerful, and he's got a noodle arm. But we're going to be able to do this, and you can see we got an easy first win and player of the game. First player of the game in my countless attempts to win a Heisman with the kicker. This is promising. We actually have a chance here. Our stats were insane, and we're not yet on the Heisman leaderboard, but we will be. For game 2, we actually have a tough one against Tulane. They're the same overall as Kansas State, which meant this was going to be tough, especially since I was still figuring out how best to use the quarterback in the passing game. I could scramble around, but I didn't know what routes were best for this type of arm. The slant worked like a charm. We'll be using that a lot in this video. But anytime I wanted to throw it down the field, it was really difficult to make it happen. So I just started scrambling. This was one of my longest scrambles of the season for a touchdown. Awesome. And I realized that with the passing accuracy slider all the way up, I could throw on the run pretty well, at least accuracy-wise. He still couldn't throw his way out of a wet paper bag, but we could work with this level of accuracy, especially with the scrambling ability. He's a weapon anytime he's near the goal line. Here you can see me starting to get a little too confident trying to throw the ball down the field. That's just not going to work. Quarterback sneaks are going to work. And, of course, we have to kick some field goals. You can't win the Groza if you don't actually kick field goals. And it just feels disingenuous to try to win a Heisman and not the Groza. You've got to get both with this challenge. We won easily. We were once again player of the game. Awesome sign. Very important. Our stats were definitely Heisman level. We were on a roll. For the first time ever, I thought we were going to win a Heisman with a kicker. Game 3 was a ranked-on-ranked matchup against Arizona, but I was pretty confident. We had blown out the first two teams, honestly, really easily, and I was starting to feel like I had an understanding of how to use this guy. I'd never played with a quarterback who had a noodle arm this badly, but you could still work with it, especially because these defenders don't know what they're doing. It's freshmen. My strategy was definitely to scramble a lot, keep the play alive, and then find someone wide open downfield. That find right there I thought was really good. And we were going to kick some field goals. Short ones, long ones. We're going to try not to miss one, though I will say we might fail that challenge. First missed field goal of the entire series is in this video. My bad on that one. But we dominated Arizona. We were not going to lose to them. Leighton Simmering, too fast in the open field. Lineman cannot catch him. We won by 1 billion. We were player of the game. Awesome sign. Our stats were once again Heisman level, and they're going to get even better as I get better with this quarterback. Some of the stat lines later in this video just don't even make sense. And since that's the third game, we're going to check in on our season stats and our season goals. Not on the Heisman leaderboard, but we have some juicy passing stats. Looking good for the first 3 games. And we already have 11 rushing touchdowns. Unbelievable. We're perfect on the year on field goals with a long of 55. So let's check in on the challenge goals. Not on the Heisman leaderboard yet. We are 5 for 5, so the Lug Rose is in reach, and we are undefeated so far. Game 4 was a matchup with BYU on the road, and I thought it might be tough. BYU had a really good year, but this was the most in control of this quarterback I had felt so far. BYU had absolutely nothing for this guy scrambling, so I took full advantage of that, racking up rushing touchdowns, but that's not it. We were also dicing him up down the field. That would be a touchdown if he had a real arm, but he doesn't. But that doesn't matter because they cannot stop this guy. He's going to win a Heisman. You've got to contain him. He will run right up the gut to the house. Of course, checking in on the kicking challenge, banging home a 39-yarder. Awesome. And then we hit another slant for like 70 yards straight to the house. It's definitely the best route for this type of quarterback. But we also can throw it down the field a little bit. We hit a go route for a touchdown, absolutely on the dot, even with a noodle arm. That was beautiful. And we tried to do it again and somehow actually completed it. The receiver breaks a tackle, takes it to the crib. That's as far as he can throw it. It doesn't get any farther than that. Now we're banging home another kick just to make sure we're still in the minds of the voters for the Lug Rosa. We won really comfortably, and we were player of the game again, over 400 passing yards. Unbelievable. These stats are definitely Heisman level. I cannot wait to check in after the 6th game to see if we're on the leaderboard, because honestly, we should be at this point. For Game 5, we have Oklahoma State, who does have a higher overall than Kansas State and starts a quarterback that isn't actually a kicker, but that's not going to matter. You know by now, we are still going to dominate, mostly using this dude's legs. Absolute unit as a scrambler. It helps that they take the worst angles ever on freshmen. It makes no sense. But it's not just his legs. He can also throw it down the field, or maybe they'll just drop that. The receivers have to help this dude out. It's a miracle when he hits their hands. But we hit another slant, and we take it to the crib. Slants are OP if you have a noodle arm quarterback. That's what I've learned. And the other thing is, just throw it to the tight end. Tight end routes were really good for this guy because they were usually shorter, slower developing, easy to hit, and I guess Kansas State must have some good tight ends. Also, you can just run down the field. Super fast, kick a field goal for absolutely no reason other than you're trying to win a Lug Rosa trophy. And you might see this clip and think I just wasn't decisive, but you're wrong. I actually just wanted to run right up the field and score another touchdown. It's not that I didn't see the wide open guys. We won easily again. Oklahoma State had nothing for us. Player of the game, ridiculous stat line, again. We're going to win this Heisman. I'm saying it right now. We're going to win the Heisman. Look at these stats. How could we not? There is not another player that does more for their team. There just isn't. We are closing out the first half of the regular season against Colorado, which means we were going up against the real Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter, and Shedeur Sanders. I expected this to be a tough one. I thought they would score a ton of points. I am not playing any of the defense at all. I'm simming that. But of course, we can just dominate, running straight up the field, racking up ridiculous yardage. This dude ends up leading the country in rushing yards. As a quarterback, who's actually a kicker. He's also a gunner, though. Look at this. Hitting wide open guys, letting them do all the work. I love hurdling people, and it's super easy on freshmen. That's why you see it happen a lot in this video. It's just fun. I have to play these games. I want to have fun. Did you see that dot? This guy can throw it. And we're also going to kick a few super short field goals. Padding the stats, you know the drill by now. Although a 42-yarder, that's pretty respectable. We do hit from 61 in this video, by the way. Which is wild because this is like their third string kicker. He's actually not a very good kicker in this game. But he is a pretty good quarterback. And you can tell he's starting to feel himself. Striking the Heisman pose. That's a really good sign. And now we're banging one home from 51. That'll get the attention of the voters for sure. We won easily. We are player of the game over Travis Hunter. That's a really good sign. And we continue to stack up stats that at least give us a shot to make the Heisman voters respect us. We're a weird story. That either helps or hurts, but let's check in. We're still not on the Heisman Trophy leaderboard. That's okay. But look at these stats. 21 touchdowns to 2 picks. Awesome passing, over 1,000 yards with 17 touchdowns, and we're still perfect 9 for 9 with a long of 51. Checking in on the challenge goals, not on the Heisman leaderboard, but we are doing well for the Lou Groza, and we are undefeated. We're looking good. Game 7 had us going on the road to play West Virginia. We were taking on the Mountaineers. And this one actually started out close. It was relatively close into the second half, but we were absolutely slinging it. This is one of my best passing games I had. I hit some throws that I didn't even think this guy could make, but it was all about the timing. Throwing the ball right before they got out of the range of his noodle arm. And I should stop calling him that. I've said it several times, but he can make plenty of throws. Super accurate, thanks to the sliders. But as long as you play to his strengths, he can pretty much do anything he wants on the field, including just scrambling for an absolute ton of yards anytime he wants. It's honestly like a get-out-of-jail-free card. I try to pass the ball more often, and in this game that worked out really well, but anytime I got into trouble, I pretty much just scrambled. It worked pretty much every time. Also hit some bombs. I don't know if this qualifies as a bomb. We did make it, though. And we ran in a little touchdown here. Easy. Anytime you're inside the 10, just drop back and run for a touchdown. But like I said, most of the damage done in this game was through the air. We were dicing them up. We won pretty comfortably, though like I said, it was close kind of late. Player of the game, look at that. 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns. Ridiculous stat lines. Surely this is going to help us get on the Heisman leaderboard the next time we check in after Game 9. Game 8 was a matchup against our rival Kansas. It was Kansas State, and this was by far the closest game we had. And that was pretty much completely my fault as the controller of this player. I could not stop making mistakes. I was so bad in this game, and I honestly don't know why. That was completely on me, and it's not the last one we're going to see either. I did make some good plays in this game, but for some reason, I could just not get out of my own way. This was a pretty good little run by this receiver after I got him the ball. And we did run this in for a touchdown, taking the lead. But that is where the good things stop for a moment. This is one of the worst passes I've ever thrown playing NCAA football. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. Again, on me. I was hurting the team here, and I was starting to think I was going to be the reason why we do not achieve our third goal of going undefeated. Had to lock in, had to get the ball to my playmakers, and I did make up for the interceptions by hitting a new season long of a kick of 56 yards. Crazy. But then I did it again. Threw it right to the defender. On me. This has nothing to do with the kicker. This is me. 3 interceptions. What is going on? I will say, from that point in, I did lock in. I had to. We were losing. We were down 17-10. I decided to run the ball a little bit, try to take control of this game, and then we made a pretty good throw that ended up going for a touchdown. You love to see it. We tied up the game, but once again, we're trailing. Down 7 points. Pretty late into the ball game. We had not experienced anything like that so far in this challenge. Every game's been smooth. We definitely have not thrown 3 interceptions in a game yet. We have thrown a couple, but not 3 in one game. And then we started throwing dots. Leighton Simmering is a big game player. I don't know if that's actually true, but me controlling him, we locked in. They initially ruled this incomplete, but if you look at it after the challenge, that's a touchdown. We tied it up after the extra point was good. Also by the kicker, obviously, scoring literally every point. And then it was time to try to take the lead and ice this game. All knotted up, 24-24. We broke loose for another massive scramble. The dude ran out of steam, or we might have got some more yards. He gets tired really easily. I'm sure that's because he's a kicker. But just because he's a kicker doesn't mean he can't put the whole team on his back, make up for his mistakes, and take the lead. But Kansas bounced right back. Of course they did. This is an all-time classic. We had to drive down the field and win the game. If we didn't, we were going to fail our third challenge and hurt our chances at winning the Heisman. That's for sure. But look at that dot. We took the lead, and we weren't going to give it back. We even piled on an extra field goal just to pad the stats. This was an all-time classic. It was closer than 10 points. We were player of the game despite throwing 3 picks. That was the worst performance we're going to have all year, for sure. And again, that's on me. That's not Leighton Simmering. That's me being bad. But after the game, I checked the leaderboards, and we are the favorite for the Groza. Game 9 was a game against Houston on the road, but Houston's just not as good as Kansas State. I didn't expect this to be a challenge, and it really wasn't. We were pretty much able to do anything we wanted through the air. It was a really nice bounce-back game after the worst game of the year, throwing 3 picks in the previous one. But we just dominated, took care of business, continue rolling through this schedule. Leighton Simmering is building not only a solid Heisman case, but one of the best statistical seasons there's ever been. The rushing production combined with the passing production is something we've never seen. Just wait until you see the final stat line after the 13th game. It's definitely Heisman worthy. It might be GOAT worthy. Might be an all-time stat line. And Houston really helped here. They even resorted to fouling our receivers, getting pass interference. Who cares? We'll fight through that. It honestly surprises me how much a 3 overall difference makes for teams at this level, because it's night and day. Teams that have the same talent are so much more difficult to play with than even a couple overall points. We won really easily. It was not hard. We almost threw for 600 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's insane. Record-breaking performance from our kicker. You'll love to see it. And that's the 9th game, so let's check in. Somehow, still not on the Heisman leaderboards. But our stat line is nuts. Almost 3,500 yards passing, over 1,600 yards rushing with 23 touchdowns, and we're still perfect on the year with our new long of 56 yards. Checking in on our goals, we're still not on the Heisman leaderboard. We are the favorite for the Groza, though. That's great to see. And of course, we're still undefeated. At this point in the video, you guys get it by now. So I'm going to fast forward through games 10, 11, and 12, and we're going to get to the 13th game, the last game before they award the Heisman Trophy. And these games went how all the other ones did. I didn't have any complete meltdowns like I did when I threw 3 picks. We rolled through all the competition, won game 10 with a really good stat line that I'm just putting there to make sure you guys can fact check my final stat lines. And then it was time to play Cincinnati. This game was a little closer, but we still won pretty comfortably. It was really never in doubt. Player of the game again. Here are those stats. They were very impressive. Of course they were. You guys know that by now. And the final game of the regular season was against Iowa State, Farmageddon, and we absolutely dominated. We had to win this game to go to the Big 12 championship and have a really good shot at getting the Heisman. We did that by 45 points. Won another player of the game, put up another absurd stat line, and made our case that we were the best player in the country. We had one game. Game 12 was the Big 12 championship against the highest overall team we played all year, 85 overall Utah. And I expected this game to be tough, mostly because I expected Utah to score on our defense very regularly. I didn't doubt we'd be able to score on offense. I had gotten really good at this point. I knew how far he could throw. I knew how the timing worked. And I knew how to manipulate the horrible freshman defense when I'm running and scrambling. It was honestly really easy. I think I could have beat a really high overall team at this point. And we really did roll. We lined up for a 50-yard field goal right before the half. We were 2 quarters away from cementing a perfect season and finding out if it's possible to win a Heisman Trophy with a kicker, even if we did definitely cheat with the settings and then making him the quarterback. But don't talk about that. We want to find out if it's possible, and Leighton Simmering had himself an absolute day. Running and passing his way to a Big 12 championship and a player of the game. That's 13 straight players of the game. Insane. Really, really solid stat line. Trying everything I can to prove that we belong in the Heisman race. So let's check in on the final stats. Over 5,000 passing yards, 49 touchdowns, 2,300 rushing yards, and 34 more touchdowns. And we did miss one kick, but we had a long of 61. And now for the awards. We won the Lou Groza, check that off the goals, but we did not win the Heisman. And we had much better stats than Cam Ward, who did. We didn't make it on the board, and now let me show you why. Just like in the first attempt, the game didn't record my season stats. It doesn't record them even if you put him at quarterback, and they're not there in his player card either. The game's just broken. It is literally impossible to win a Heisman Trophy with a kicker. I've proven that, but we did win the Groza, and we did go undefeated, and I think we learned a lot about NCAA 25. Like and subscribe for more.